Councillor Quigg.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, it's very much a case of blink and you'll miss in terms of item 12, but public questions in item 12 is being reduced from its 30 minutes to 15 minutes. And given that we've had several council meetings where members of the public have felt aggrieved that their questions haven't been addressed, I would have thought it would have been more appropriate to keep the 30 minutes rather than reducing it to 15 minutes and reducing public participation in meetings, which seems to me anti-democratic in the very least. I mean, we might be having to rename constitutional services to anti-democratic constitutional services because, at the face of it, this is absolutely shocking that we're reducing it to 15 minutes where basically nobody will get a question in, and we've seen at least 25 questions at some council meetings, and many of them unanswered.
Okay,
I think
the woman sat behind him is Elizabeth Drogan on the far end, yeah, looking down. So the Director of Constitutional Services, for some reason, decided to sit behind Councillor Lewis Quigg, who is the one who questions the council the most. Was that intentional? Was that done to attempt to intimidate him?
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Councillor Davis to ask his question.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I've been thinking to get that right all night. Could the member responsible for the war memorial in the town centre please look into the situation where motor vehicles are parking on the cobbled area? It appears to be from the property which used to be the former Greaves Arms. They are taking the bollards down on the road and leaning them on the war memorial. This is a total lack of respect to the people who paid the ultimate price.
And he asked a very reasonable question. The war memorial in town's former Greaves Arms, I don't know why he went round the houses. In fact, I do know, because he's scared. And that's as brave as he could get. And of course, it's Cafe East he's making reference to, and a car parked next to Cafe East. Now, let me just try and find something. Just give me 1 second. So when Cafe East was opened a couple of years ago, Oldham Council promoted it. And I want to show you something.
So it's been great to see and look around Cafe East this morning. The team have done such a fantastic job in creating and transforming such an iconic building at the heart of Oldham Town Centre, and I wish them lots and lots.
Okay, of course, I can't say cartels because I don't know here, but I can say this. Can you see this? Duh. K4MYG. Is that a Rolls Royce parked next to the... Is that a Rolls Royce parked next to the war memorial that Councillor Pete Davis makes reference to? That Oldham Council is happily promoting officially on its own webpage. Have you seen what's happened to the Greaves Arms? K4MYG. Kammy G. Who could it be? Who could be Kammy G? Let me have a look. Let me have a look and see who could be Kammy G. Kammy G, let me... Oh, look who it is. Look who it is, Kammy G. Is that the car? Is that the councillor? Is that the car? Is that the councillor? This council was endorsing and supporting this. The removing of bollards. The council leader was an active partner in promoting this venue. And that, I suggest, is why Councillor Pete Davis went round the houses. Because we know who really controls the town, as does Councillor Pete Davis. Because Councillor Pete Davis attempted to prevent Arooj Shah from becoming leader. And from what I can tell, what he's saying is, these people, it's a councillor. This is a councillor. They're removing the bollards and parking a Rolls Royce next to the war memorial. He's right. He's right to object to it. You know, there's some things we can all agree on. And paying tribute to our dead, those who sacrificed their lives in the world wars. He's too scared to say his name. Denise. He'd probably get reprimanded. Because, of course, above the Labour Party and the Conservative Party sit the cartel, sit the Asian clans, sit all of those relationships. It's just a rosette. It's like me saying to two of my mates, how are we going to take control of this council? You know what, Raj? I'll go and join the Tories. I'll join the other one says he'll go and join the Lib Dems, and I'll say I'll join the Labour Party, and all three of us will be in the council chamber, but really our loyalties aren't to the political parties we represent. The loyalties are to a different group that sits above it. He couldn't get another seat in Werneth. The Werneth seats were taken. So I hope you found that entertaining. A bit more entertainment, I think, is the public questions shambles.
Submitted in the order received, starting with public questions. There is a 30-minute time limit for public questions, and once this time limit expires, no further questions will be asked. There is no right of reply to answers given. I will be reading out the questions. If the time limit has expired and members of the public has submitted a question, the response will be published on the council website. Mr. Bates, if you do not sit down and be quiet, I will ask you to be removed.
He's not very good, is he? He wanted to, you know, he's clearly got some beef with Warren from the past, and he thought his power would allow him to deal with it.
Can I have a point of order, please, Mr. Deputy Mayor? Just on this issue, because I've just been shown what Mr. Bates has got there outside, and I think it needs clarity, because his letter says about public questions and the public being able to debate while we're in question time. And I think that's what Mr. Bates is alluding to. He's got a letter, and the wording says about the members of the public being able to debate in the time of question time, and I think it needs clarity.
So the vote can say is that in the Constitution at the moment, the particular section relating to public question time doesn't give a particular ability or power for the members of the public to debate or to question any.
Okay, this is very, very, very good. Paul Entwistle has made a massive mistake there. He's made a massive mistake with what he's just said, because it gave me an idea. And it's very rare for Entwistle to speak. But he's saying, he says basically in the council's constitution at this moment in time, it doesn't give ability for X, Y, and Z to take place. But it doesn't matter what the council's constitution says. What matters is what it says on the letter that Warren Bates received. And I've got a copy of the relevant section I'll show you in a minute. But let this farce play out. Let this farce play out, because it's entertaining.
Question that is asked and answered by the relevant cabinet member.
But that's the letter that I've got the word in here, and to me it reads as though the public are allowed to contribute. So, do you want me to? I can read the line out for you. What?
Council, Mr. Bates, please sit down.
I think it just needs the members of the public to be told, Paul, because that does read a little strange. Ambiguous. That's the word.
All we've got to do is to look at what the Constitution says about public questions, and the Constitution says that the public...
No, it's not what the Constitution says. It's what you said in the letter you sent to the member of the public, Paul. It doesn't matter what your big book says, because members of the public, Warren Bates didn't get a copy of your Constitution. He got a letter.
Question section relates to asking a question, which is asked by the Mayor, and responses which are given by cabinet members. There's no provision in the Constitution to allow members of the public to debate while questions are being asked.
But this letter says that we warmly invite members of the public to contribute during question time, and it says residents will be able to speak and listen to.
This will need to be discussed outside of this meeting. As we are now, there is no response.
Eddie Moore's overstepping his authority and overstepping his mark. Let's take it behind closed doors and discuss it in private.
It's no debate. It's a question and an answer.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, point of order. Can the Borough Solicitor clarify which part of the Constitution is referring to, given that if Mr Bates has received a letter from the Council saying debate means between 1 and 2 parties, not 1. So I think Mr Bates deserves at least a clarification as to what you mean by debate.
It's not clear what particular letter Mr Bates is referring to. Again, just repeating that the Constitution...
So, Paul Entwistle doesn't even know what letter his department sent to Mr Bates, Warren Bates. That's Paul Entwistle admitting he doesn't even know what the letter was.
Specifies how the council should deal with public questions at council meetings.
So, sorry, can you refer to the section then, Paul, if you don't mind, please, as Borough Solicitor?
Through you, Mr Chair, it's in the Council Procedure Rules, Rule 10, Public Questions. It refers to notice of public questions, scope of questions, order of questions, and how they will be responded to.
Well, that is the final answer at this point. We work into the Constitution. If you want to show us that letter after the meeting, then by all means, and we perhaps have a discussion, but not here. We are moving on to the questions. Thank you. We are moving on to the questions. It is not for discussion here. Thank you.
Hapless, isn't it? That's exactly the right word, Tony. Hapless.
The first question has been submitted by Megan Birchall. I saw the video of the old TJU's building being demolished. I can also see a visible difference in the town centre. There's still a lot of work going on and lots to do. I was wondering what the time scale is for the various projects. I call upon Councillor Shah to reply.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for reading out the question, and to Meg Birchall for asking the question. The new workspace in Spindles will be completed first, with council staff moving into the space over the winter months. This will immediately increase footfall in the Spindles and spending in our town centre businesses. It will then also free up the site. Okay, it's going to play out. I'm going to carry on playing it because I think it's important when it breaks down in a minute. But I'll carry on playing it. But I just want to hold it there. Arooj Shah is claiming moving the council staff into Spindles will immediately increase footfall. Well, what's the footfall now? Someone submit an FOI and ask him to clarify and confirm. Arooj Shah said, blah, blah, blah. What's the footfall now? And of course, the questions come from the councillor behind her, who's the parish councillor and the Labour Party candidate in Shaw. He, she, they. Although when I was raised, they was a plural. Maybe that's what it now they means, plural. They decide what gender they are depending on their mood. I don't know. But she wants to be made reference to as they. And she comes in with that fan immediately sitting behind. Along with Muhammad Ali immediately sitting behind. Wanting to be seen. Wanting to be seen. Public questions was never for the likes of Megan. Meg? Birchall. Meg, sorry, I shouldn't call her Megan. Meg. They. I can't keep up. I shouldn't have called the individual. Councillor Birchall, the parish councillor Birchall, shouldn't be submitting public questions. It's disingenuous, it's disrespectful, and completely undermines the entire public question arena. The purpose. And look at the smirk on her face. Look at the smirk on her face. This was all done on purpose, by the way. Set up, and it was not possible, it would not have been possible without the complicity of Elizabeth Drogan and the Constitutional Services team, who to this day refuse to confirm just exactly the window opens for public questions. At what time,
our public questions for the next meeting start being taken for. If they are asked in order received, then what time and date, what is the trigger event for the first question to be submitted? Oh, don't be silly. You don't need shops. You need shisha bars and chicken shops. Chicken shops. Shisha bars. Maybe a money exchange. Shisha bar, money exchange, chicken shop, and some food bank spin-off. Maybe a HMO consultancy service.
The Civic Centre is needed for so much needed housing. This includes moving Access Oldham and TFGM Travel Shop into the unit that used to house H&M opposite Rhode Island Coffee to provide a new single space for residents to access help and support in the town centre. The Hive Social Enterprise Hub will also be completed later this year to support local residents with businesses, start-up support, and to provide enhanced opportunities for local businesses to network and to grow. In 2025, we'll see the new Market Hall, Archives and the Heritage Centre and the new event space that are due for completion. And following the demolition of TJ Hughes, the steelworks for the new structure will start to go in place before Christmas this year. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Again, pre-scripted response.
Thank you. The next question is from Shadab Kumar.
I
saw the press release about the
Shadab Kumar is a former senior Labour Party councillor, former mayor, St Mary's heavyweight, big influential councillor, former councillor. What is a former Labour Party councillor doing, mayor, submitting public questions like this? Again, set up stage, because he's got his question in second. I would very much want to see the timestamps and the email prints of these questions. This is a council taking and when they've done all of this, what they'd end up going and do is reduce public questions to 15 minutes. Well, if you've done a number 1, that I would suggest is a number 2. And you just take it. You just take it.
Partner for the town centre regeneration and development of the area, including housing. I want to know what type of housing will be built, and will there be affordable housing for those that are finding it hard to afford good housing? I call upon Councillor Taylor to reply.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you to Mr Kumar for his question. I think it's fair to say that all of us in Oldham Council are really excited about the next stage in our town centre regeneration and the appointment of Muse as our private sector development partner. The exact type of... They cannot visit...
Oops, I pressed the wrong button, but you can see what's just happened there is she is just reading a pre-scripted response. And they carry on with a series of questions in exactly the same way before it breaks down.
If you continue to disrupt the meeting, I will need to ask you to leave. If you continue to disrupt the meeting, I will need to ask you to leave. Can you leave the meeting, please? Can you leave the meeting, please?
That's Peter Brown, who also got a letter to contribute, so he's contributing because these people are taking the mick out of all of you lot. Can I say the mick?
It is not for the gallery to be asking questions at this point. Could you please stop or leave? Right, I'm asking you now formally to leave the meeting. Could we please remove that gentleman from the meeting?
Okay, if any of you find yourself in a similar position again, the security guards cannot touch you. They cannot put their hands on you. It's called common assault, so they cannot remove you from anywhere. They'll have to call the police, but the police clearly now want nothing to do with it and have been ordered to stay away as much as possible. Otherwise, the police would have been there, wouldn't they? So, no. Eddie Moores is ordering... I think Peter Brown's in his 70s, is ordering the removal of a 70-something-year-old man from the public gallery because he's had enough of having the piss taken out of him in the town. Whilst Arooj Shah and her mates are setting up public questions to be asked by councillors, Labour Party councillors, ex-councillors, and their family members. Peter Brown refuses, well done to him, and this is what happens.
Could you please refrain from saying anything further, else we will need to adjourn the meeting. Could you please stop speaking then, please, so we can continue with the questions? No, it's not for you to ask a question, right?
No, Evan, the screens are now down.
Yeah. We're just going to adjourn the meeting for a minute.
Dr. Chowan ordered the screens
and ask him
down.
could you remove the gentleman?
You can see, remove the gentleman. Okay. So then they all get called into the leaders' meeting, and obviously it's to do with these letters. Let me find you the relevant section of one of the letters. As the council meets and makes its decisions in public and is committed, I think, to community engagement, openness and transparency, we warmly invite the public to contribute during public question time. The council recognises the importance of providing opportunities for the expression of views. Residents are encouraged to attend meetings. Public participation is part of the meeting. Residents will be able to speak and be listened to. They sent that out. So they're right. So what went wrong? Who sent it out? Well, you've already heard the borough solicitor, Paul Entwistle, doesn't know and wants to rely on the Constitution. Well, sorry, you didn't send them the copy of the Constitution, you sent them this letter. And it's very clear. It went from Constitutional Services, so that's Elizabeth Drogan's office. She was sat in that council meeting herself. It appears no one knows who sent the letter out, and they tried at one point to infer that the letter might not have even been real, but multiple people got the letter. Multiple people got that attachment with the letter. From what I've been able to piece together, and this is Oldham Council style, and it's another reason why Elizabeth Drogan should be sacked from her role, marched out, is it seems they copied this, they photocopied this or cut and pasted it from the documentation of another council. Hertfordshire, I think it might have been. They copied and pasted it from another council and sent it off. Some numpty copied and pasted it and sent it off. Which is why this then had to happen.
To make a statement. Our CEO to make a statement. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. We've looked at the issue, and again, first and foremost, it's important to recognise that a number of people attending tonight were sent letters. I'm going to investigate and look at those letters and to ensure that each and every single one of them gets a response directly from the local authority on behalf of the Chief Executive. There does appear to be some element of discrepancy between a covering letter and a general attachment that has been put into the pack itself. And it can be read, well, it does say very clearly that where public meetings do take place, there is an encouragement for active participation, and therefore I have apologised personally to Mr. Brown. I've agreed to meet with him to discuss with him his specific issues, and I would say that we would, as a council, meet with anybody and work with them to resolve any concerns or issues that they have personally. We do recognise people have different vulnerabilities, different challenges, and we're here to serve the public. So effectively, with that in mind, I'm going to hand back over to the Mayor, and we will contact those individuals individually who've received this letter, and we'll ensure that that's put right, and where appropriate, we will ensure that an apology is offered. So I'll leave it at that, Mayor.
Thank you, Saeed. And it's
So an apology from the Deputy Chief Executive. So 2 apologies in the same meeting. Apology from the Chief Executive, you know, basically the most senior council officer in that meeting there. And an apology from Arooj Shah earlier. And now Arooj Shah and all of mates have got nothing to say, because this is tyranny, isn't it? This is tyranny to shut down public debate, and they had a secret plan later on. And I want to fast forward to that because I think it's important.
But wish to speak. Councillor Quigg.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, it's very much a case of blink and you'll miss in terms of item 12, but public questions in item 12 is being reduced from its 30 minutes to 15 minutes. And given that we've had several council meetings where members of the public have felt aggrieved that their questions haven't been addressed, I would have thought it would have been more appropriate to keep the 30 minutes rather than reducing it to 15 minutes and reducing public participation in meetings, which seems to me anti-democratic in the very least. I mean, we might be having to rename constitutional services to anti-democratic constitutional services, because at the face of it, this is absolutely shocking that we're reducing it to 15 minutes where basically nobody will get a question in, and we've seen at least 25 questions at some council meetings and many of them unanswered.
Okay,
I think
the woman sat behind him is Elizabeth Drogan on the far end, yeah, looking down. So the Director of Constitutional Services, for some reason, decided to sit behind Cllr Lewis Quigg, who is the one who questions the council the most. Was that intentional? Was that done to attempt to intimidate him? She doesn't sit in a normal position, but she decides to sit immediately behind the councillor that has been most vocal in holding this council to account. Why? I'm looking at that and I'm feeling harassment, intimidation. That's what's taking place there, in my opinion. Why is that council officer sat behind Cllr Lewis Quigg? What are we going to see next? Irish may get a council officer role and sit behind, I don't know, Mark Ince. Listen to Arooj Shah's response as to why public questions went down to from 30 minutes to 15. And bear in mind, they're not public questions anyway because they rig them, don't they? They'll front load them with their own people. And they don't tell us when the window opens. And that's Elizabeth Drogan is the one who's responsible for that, by the way.
Councillor Shah would like to respond.
Well, I can do, but it was an organisational meeting. But full council can sometimes, as demonstrated clearly tonight, become a theatrical event. One that's removed from the reality of the work that this council does every day. These changes are designed to make sure that full council meetings are focused on the things we actually do for our communities, the services we deliver and commission. The report has been agreed, I would like to say, so if Councillor Quigg would listen to this next part, by the leaders of the 3 main political groups who represent, so including your leader, who represent 43 out of 60 members in this chamber. The procedure rule amendments are designed to make sure we're focused here on the things that bring us into line with other local authorities in Greater Manchester. There will be an enhanced opportunity for backbenchers to ask questions to Cabinet members, with Cabinet regularly bringing update reports to full council on issues within their portfolio. And members of the public can ask any of us here questions at any time, any day, via email, and they can raise issues with their own ward councillors and raise them here as their representatives. That's the way representative democracy works.
That isn't the way representative democracy works, Councillor Arooj Shah. And for you to claim that is utter disgrace. Representative democracy works in a way where we can actually ask questions of our councillors in public under the spotlights where scrutiny takes place, public scrutiny. And what you have done, you disgraceful council leader, and look at her face again, just look at that face again, what she has done, what this woman has done, and you can see Muhammad Ali sat in the back, no idea what's going on. Warren Bates does though, look at Warren Bates' face. She has shut down democracy. And she's claiming Graham Sheldon, along with Howard Sykes, agreed to it. Graham Sheldon agreed to the shutting down. Councillor Graham Sheldon, the leader of the Oldham and Saddleworth Conservatives, the main opposition in Oldham Council, agreed with Arooj Shah, went into a secret meeting with Arooj Shah alongside Howard Sykes, and agreed to shutting down democracy and reducing public questions from 30 minutes to 15 questions. Arooj Shah claims this is to help bring Oldham Council in line with other local authorities. It is absolute complete nonsense. By this point in the meeting, Arooj Shah had already been called out as a liar, effectively, by Councillor Sal Al-Hamdani already, at least once. I think she'd been called out several times, one over the, particularly over the Coliseum. But this, you need to understand what's just took place. This is the closing down of democracy in partnership with Councillor Graham Sheldon. Now, Howard Sykes, I don't understand why he agreed to this. I generally don't, because public questions were introduced by the Liberal Democrats. Public question time was introduced as a feature into the council meetings by the Liberal Democrats. Now, this is what I now want to happen. I don't know how we're going to get it to happen. I don't think Councillor Maggie Hurley will ever say a word in any council meetings. I don't think it'd be her. But this is what I would like to now see. They have met in secret and agreed to reduce public questions. What I would like to see is a motion taken to a future council meeting. And actually, the party that should probably do this is the Failsworth Independents. And I'm not keen on them, you know. But I think the one who should do this here amongst that is the Failsworth Independents. There's 3 of them. Because they didn't put a motion in today, in this week's council meeting. And I'll get to that in a minute. But this is what the motion should be. The motion should be to revamp public questions in light of everything that's gone on. Extend it to 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Remember what's it called? The Youth Council have 20 minutes as a standing item. Get rid of them. They can report to the Youth Committee and they can come back to it that way. That's the way that should happen. She can't contradict. She's contradicting herself, but she can't have it both ways. The Youth Council shouldn't be there presenting that way if she believes what she's just said. The Youth Council should present to the Children and Young People Scrutiny Board, and the Children and Young People Scrutiny Board should be the one that then brings the Youth Council's concerns to the full council, you know, in terms of the cabinet member responsible and so on. That's the way it should work. But there's no reason why we can't have 45 minutes of public questions. And those public questions should include members of the public being able to ask their own questions. Why should he have someone as inept as Eddie Moores try and read out your question? COVID's gone. Members of the public should be able to turn up to a council meeting if they so wish and read their own questions out. Members of the public should also have a right of reply to the questions that have been asked, the answers that they get from the questions that they asked. Because far too often we've seen that Arooj Shah and her mates have no interest in answering the questions at all. So that's what should happen. Public questions should be completely revamped. And a motion should be taken where every councillor has to vote on it. And then we'll see who is democratic or anti-democratic. We will see which way Councillor Helen Bishop votes, won't we? Maybe she'll stand up and speak and know what she's speaking about. We'll see which way, how Arooj Shah attempts to defend the shutting down of democracy. Now, if I was a councillor, that is one of the motions I would be taking. A motion on public questions, democratic engagement of the public, and let them vote on it. And then when they vote it down, because that's what Shah and her mates will do, because Shah and her, and Jabbar and all of them, Elaine Taylor, they don't want democracy. This is a tyranny. These people are despots. I've maintained it from the beginning. This is a tyranny and these people are despots. This is the illusion of democracy. And as soon as we start to use a democratic mandate available to us through the Constitution and so on, they're realizing that we've got smart, want to close it down. That's why they put the shields up. That's why they had the security guards. That's why they fake as-bid people. And now all of that are failing. People being followed home at night, failing. Police unlawfully arresting people, failing. They've now resorted to shutting down democratic engagement in the council chamber, with the support of Graham Sheldon, the leader of the opposition. Why has the leader of the opposition supported this? Why?
Thank you, Saeed. And it's Deputy Mayor, by the way. We're going to continue with 10 minutes of public questions now. So I'll move on to the next question, which has come from Imran Chowdhury. Councillor Abdul Jabbar, Nazrul Islam and Moana Halley all continue to openly fraternise with the former chairman of Oldham Central Mosque. This man is a convicted sex offender. How can Oldham Council promote... How can Oldham Council promote a victim survivor charter for victims of CSE whilst its councillors take part in this behaviour? Does the council feel it's appropriate for any of its councillors to attend community events and sit alongside convicted sex offenders? I call on Councillor Jabbar to reply.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. A key part of a local councillor role is to attend local events and to engage with the local community. Now, when you end up in a public meeting, it's very, very difficult to actually sit next to somebody without actually knowing their private life. And also it's very difficult, Mr Deputy Mayor, to actually carry out any DBS checks for anyone attending public meetings. But what's absolutely clear is this, that sexual abuse, exploitation, violence of any form is abhorrent. We stand firmly with the survivors and the victims of CSE. We support the police and the criminal justice system in wanting to ensure anyone found guilty of these offences is brought to justice. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Okay, so that question went in by my friend Mofazul Imran Chowdhury. No hiding behind fake accounts is Imran. In the same way you guys send in and work with me to send in questions or FOIs and public questions, Imran has been working with me for a number of years. He's the one who sent in the FOI that forced the council to admit that they'd secretly funded Oldham Central Mosque. So those of you ask, it was a genuine question, it's a serious question. He's one of us. And he has exposed Councillor Abdul Jabbar, because Councillor Abdul Jabbar didn't just ask the question of Councillor Abdul Jabbar, he asked it of Nazrul Islam and Moan Ali, who all openly fraternise with the convicted it wasn't a child sex offender, it was just a sex offender. Does that make it better? The convicted sex offender, former chairman of Oldham Central Mosque, that our campaign removed. And it appears to be that Councillor Abdul Jabbar is standing up and suggesting he was unaware that this man is a convicted sex offender, which is why Mofazul will send in another question, and even if it doesn't get asked, we will ask Councillor Jabbar this question when we see him on the streets. In response to a public question at the last meeting, Abdul Jabbar suggested he was unaware that he was fraternising with a convicted sex offender. Now he has been informed that the former chair of Oldham Central Mosque is a convicted sex offender. Will Councillor Jabbar and his colleagues Nazrul Islam and Mohan Ali accept that it is completely unacceptable for them to attend functions in their capacity as representatives of Oldham and openly endorse a man that was convicted of serious sex crimes against a woman? He is claiming he didn't know. I don't believe him. Mohan Ali is, well, he's not answered, but Jabbar answered on behalf of all three of them. Nazrul Islam, I know they knew. I know they knew. And this is the contempt that this Labour Party run council has for the people of Oldham, because it openly, their senior politicians, two of them are on the cabinet. Jabbar was the former deputy leader, openly fraternised with a convicted sex offender. Arooj Shah is tapping away to, what's she doing? Tapping away to Irish Shimmy? Yeah, drinks later. What is she doing? Why would you accept it in a meeting if someone was tapping away at a phone? I'd have all phones turned off in a council meeting, and I'd make sure that none of them could be accessing their phones and hooking up for drinks afterwards. Denise, I've been in a place where I looked up and Jabbar was sat there next to this convicted sex offender at the same table as Mohan Ali and Nazrul Islam during Ramadan last year. But what I wanted, so he won't be able to deny he's not been sat next to him. We've got photographs. Plenty of photographs. What we now need to know is, for him to deny that he did not know that the chairman of the mosque, the former chairman of the mosque that he attends, that his brother is now chairman of, that he did not know that this man, former Labour Party candidate, by the way, in Coldust, senior member of the OBA cartel, that Jabbar did not know he was a convicted sex offender. Can you imagine if any one of us was sat at a function next to Tommy Robinson? This man is a convicted sex offender, and it is wrong that our councillors in our community sit next to him, because it sends the wrong signals out. What sort of signal does it send to those of us who find, what is a sex offender? Let's be clear what we mean by what a sex offender is. In its simplest term, what does it mean? It's someone who takes sexual advantage, tries to rape a woman. We sanitize words. I always see it through the context of, I am a father and I have a daughter. Can you imagine if a man sexually assaulted my daughter, what I would do to him? Yet here we have one of the most senior, he is the most senior Bangladeshi councillor in the town, openly engaged. What does he do? Endorse that behaviour? Ignore that behaviour because of the votes this guy carries? I don't know. But this behaviour is unacceptable, and Abdul Jabbar's response is unacceptable. Did he know? I don't want you to talk in the vague sense, Jabbar. Did you know that this man was a convicted sex offender when you sat next to him in front of me, never mind Imran or anyone else, last year, when you shared a meal with him, sat next to you at your table, with Mohan Ali sat there, Mohan Ali, Nazrul Islam? Was the Bangladeshi High Commissioner not sat at the same table, or the former Bangladeshi High Commissioner? What sort of signal does it send to the Bangladeshi women and girls in the community? What sort of signal does it send to the wider community? What sort of signal does it send to those of us who know that the sexual offence was committed against a white young girl? A white woman, as in, young girl. For me, someone in the 20s is a young, I use that term, but you understand what I mean. A white female. Would you have sat next to him in the same way, Abdul Jabbar, if he'd committed the crime against a Muslim woman? Tell me. In what world is this acceptable? And he dodged the question. And Arooj Shah is typing away. And look at Ruji Sultan behind. Muslim women go and vote for you, don't they, Ruji, because you're a woman. And yet you won't speak out. You won't speak out whilst your councillor colleague breaks bread with a convicted sex offender. A lot of them disgust me. They don't appall me, they disgust me. As for his reference for daddy, he doesn't remember. He can't recall, remember? And that was put to bed. He can't recall. He can't recall, and he can't recall here either, it seems. Or he doesn't know here. There's a lot of I don't know. No. Wrong. Wrong on every level. And let me move on to something. When I criticise the independents, I find it difficult. So I don't do it because I want to do it, but I do it because I believe that the people who listen to me want me, trust me, and I'm fair. So when the Royton independents fell out with me, it was because they didn't want me to be criticising them. Well, I'm sorry. My responsibility is to the town. And yet again, you've seen it's another council meeting where Councillor Hurley has not said a word. My honest opinion is it's a combination of she's nervous or scared, along with she has no idea what's going on. Or where, when, or how. And neither do her advisors. But she's not the only one. She's not the only one. Let me bring something else up. Councillor Lucia Ray from the Failsworth Independents put this up after the full council meeting. Yet another evening of the full council meeting where I'm timed out and don't have the opportunity to ask my question. It's already resubmitted for the November full council. This is the 3rd month now. Strict time constraints and delays to the meeting see me having the misfortune of losing out again. It's a frustrating experience. Maybe next time. Let's see. Absolute nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. I'm not going to call her a liar because I don't think she's lying. I think she just has no idea. If a councillor wants to speak and ask a question at a council meeting such as this, a full council meeting, and the way she's alluding to, you have the opportunity to speak in response to cabinet minutes. The cabinet minutes change before every full council meeting. So you wouldn't be resubmitting the same question to do with cabinet minutes that are 3 meetings old. Okay? First of all, done. Secondly, if you're an independent or an opposition councillor, this is where you have the opportunity to speak. And I'll explain it to you. Free of charge to my friends in the Royton Independents. And Brian Hoban knows better because he's been a councillor now for 3 or 4 years. So for him liking Lucia's or endorsing this is at best disingenuous to one of his own councillors, or at worst they are attempting as a collective to mislead all of you. If I was an independent councillor, an opposition councillor, these are the windows of opportunity I have to answer, have my voice heard in the full council meeting. 1, I can put a motion in. Mark Ince has now put a motion in the last council. No, he didn't. He did something else. I'll get to that. I can put a motion. Mark Ince will be putting a motion into the next council meeting where he's got it seconded by Howard Sykes because he's learning to be a very good politician, to do with Article 4 and the banning of closing the HMO loophole that prevents your next door from becoming a HMO. That motion is going into the next council meeting. So Mark Ince is doing that at the next council meeting. At the last council meeting, what Mark Ince did was he amended an existing motion. So any councillor, any party can amend an existing motion. So any of the motions that are put forward, that are published on a Friday, you have a small window of opportunity and you can amend an existing motion so it says something else. The Labour Party amended the Conservative motion to do with the Saddleworth Health Centre. So you can amend the motion. The councillor's questions, where she's probably getting timed out, is irrelevant. You're never going to get in because it's like the public questions, but they've already selected who asks what, where. It's like setting yourself up to fail and then saying, no, I tried. No. Sorry, Gary, that's not where it's done. You have the option to put a motion in. You have the option to amend the motion. The Failsworth Independents at this council meeting on Wednesday had the opportunity to put a motion in. They did not put a single motion in, did they? Why not? There are only 6 council meetings in a year. Why did the Failsworth Independents not put a motion in? If Lucia wanted to do something for her community in Failsworth East, why did she not put a motion in? It needs to be seconded. That's all. There's 3 of them. And I'm sure if the other 2 weren't around, if she asked Mark, Maggie or Sandra even, one of them would have seconded a motion if it was to do with Failsworth and the community. She didn't. The Failsworth Independents did not put a motion in. The Failsworth Independents did not amend anything. So those are the first 2 places where you can, you've got, it's the system provides you with an opportunity that Arooj Shah and her mates can't block. You just got to put some work into the paperwork beforehand. It takes a bit of time. You can ask questions on the cabinet minutes or on any of the committee minutes. But the issue with that is you've got to read the minutes. And also you can ask to speak on the motions, but then that's at the discretion of the mayor, and the opposition isn't really going to get much of a chance to do that. Those of you saw the meeting on Wednesday saw how Lewis got shut down several times by the deputy mayor. Because then you're giving the power over to the other lot. But where you've got the power and they have to hear you, is an motion, an amended motion, questions and cabinet minutes, questions and minutes. And the other place, the leaders of the opposition groups all get a question. Hoban asked one, Howard Sykes asked one, Mark Ince asked one, Graham Sheldon asked one. If Councillor Lucia Ray had a question that was so important to be asked, it's the 3rd month now. I'm not sure how it'd be the 3rd month now, because the first meeting was only administrative, but by the by. What this tells me is that she has no idea. She's not read the Constitution. She has no idea about council process or procedures. And it's poor. It's just as poor as the other ones who just sit there looking like, oh, what's going on around me? Never speaking. And there's those in all the parties. The Labour Party have them. The Lib Dems have them. All I see, Denise, when I look at that is, I find the chuckling between Councillor Gaffar and Councillor Sharp uncomfortable. As a professional, I find that uncomfortable. They can have drinks afterwards, they can have a chat afterwards, they can do what they do together afterwards. But in that council chamber, they should be focused on what's taking place and how they can be effective. I don't see that. So no, the Failsworth Independents had an opportunity, multiple opportunities, and took none of them in Wednesday's council meeting. So they have no right to issue a statement such as this the day after and look for sympathy. And those of you giving them sympathy, well, I'm afraid you don't understand council processes either. The rules are there for everyone. And there are opportunities there, and Mark Hinz has demonstrated this. And sorry, I'm not singing his plaudits because of any reason other than I'm seeing it played out in front of me. It's a brand new councillor. Just listen to how he spoke this time to how he spoke last time. It's night and day. He's more confident, is all of that. But the first time he put forward an amendment to the Conservative motion. And they had to vote it down. But his amendment was spot on. Every council-run cemetery should have a Muslim section in it. No, there should be no private Muslim cemetery with land given over by us, the taxpayer, to a private body of some form for more segregation. Instead, what should happen is every cemetery run by the council in this town should have a Muslim section in it. Spot on amendment. And this time, he asked a question last time as well, but to do with public questions, I think, and how none of them are answering. And this time, his question, as the leader of the group, forced an apology from the leader of Oldham Council. Forced an apology from the leader of Oldham Council, and I think at the next meeting you will see him present a motion that is politically manoeuvred, that is got seconded by Howard Sykes, the Liberal Democrats. If you go on that thread on the Fails of Independence, you'll also see some nonsense from the Fails of Independence that they don't sign off, to do with them supporting CSE and not attending the protest vigil, whatever it is, on Saturday. I would be surprised, I would be extremely surprised if Lucia Ray is a councillor next year. I think there are moves already afoot from within those who were betrayed by the Fails of Independence to take back what they believe was rightfully theirs. And if they don't win, I think Labour will get in through the middle, but either way, Lucia Ray will not be a councillor next year. Who knows? Maybe she'll have asked whatever question she wants to ask by then. I don't know. What I do know is that the Fails of Independence, just as the Royton Independents, had plenty of opportunities at this council to have their voices heard and have the voice of their community heard, and they chose not to. Okay, that's me done for the evening. I hope you found value in this transmission. Just give or take 2 hours, I think, we've been broadcasting for. It was the 4th transmission this week, I think. Once again, whoever presented themselves off as Ibby, I think it was disingenuous of you to do such a thing, and that poor young man's had some blowback from the community he lives in, and it wasn't fair on him. So I think, of course, my apologies to him for what took place, but also, as I always say, if we don't find our own courage, if we don't find the ability for us to stand up for ourselves, then this town will never change. And if it does change, as it is changing for the worse, which is what Arooj Shah and her friends are doing. By now you know what I'm like. I'm forthright, I'm direct, and if you're insulted because I object to the cover up the grooming and gang rape of my town's children, well then, I'm afraid you'll continue to remain insulted, as Arooj Shah is finding out. Unkind, she says. I'll rather be unkind than hear another scream of another child, ever in this town. My name is Miah MBE. Thank you very, very, very much. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.